Hey everyone, how you doing? This is an intro video for the week 6 Desmos activity with applications of linear equations. So our goal on this one is to start working with equations, relationships between our x variable and our y variable, continue working with graphs, continue working with points, and continue working with equations and start to see how they're all related as we work with solutions of points and solutions of equations. So here we go. We're going to work through a couple of these, help get you started on this Desmos activity, and then you can go in and work on it on your own. So here's the first screen. We need to pick a point so that the x-coordinate plus the y-coordinate equals 10. Well, there's a lot of different solutions in here that you could do. We could do, let's make x equal 2, and then y equals 8, and those add up to 10, right? So that would be the point 2 and 8. So I would write it in as parentheses 2 comma 8 with the parentheses, just like they're saying. Or we could have 4 and 6. Lots of different things we could do in terms of solutions, right? These are two different points where the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate equal 10. Let's go on to the next one here. Now, add our point to the table below. So we're going to be working with tables and seeing how points graph. So we had a couple points. So let's put the point when x was 2, y equaled 8. And I can represent that by this point on here. There's the coordinates of the point from the table and the graph, and they match up nicely. And we also chose to do the point 4 and 6. Those are the x and the y coordinate that also add up to 10. You can do as many as you want. It just says add your point. So if your point's the same as mine, if your point's different, that's great. But you should have a point that shows up on the graph, and you should see the x and the y values add up to 10. What would all the points look like? So now we're trying to step back and generalize and think algebraically. If we manage to write down every point for which the sum of the coordinates is 10, what would the graph look like? If we don't know, let's go back to the last screen and enter more points. So let's do that. So with 4, 6, we could do 5, 5. We could do 10 and 1. Whoops, 10 and 0. Those would add up to 10. We could do 8 and 2. And you start to get a little bit better idea of what's happening, right? What do you think all these points, the relationship between all these points is? They're going to form a line, and we're starting to think now about linear equations, linear relationships, and points that form a line. We could even get into decimals, right? We could do 3.2 and 6.8. Those add up to 10. We could see that that still forms right on the line as well. So if I was to summarize what would all the points look like, I would say if I did every single point, they would form a straight line representing all the points. Now represent this situation with an equation. This is kind of the summary, right? We've got some points, we've got an equation. How can I always show the x-coordinate plus the y-coordinate equals 10? Well, we know an x value plus the y value for my point has to equal 10. And now we've got an equation that represents our situation, that represents this graph, that represents this table. That's what you're doing here, is you're exploring, you're thinking about relationships between graphs, equations, tables, and what do these x and y values mean when we're building this relationship.